There is a version of you that earns enough money to be financially stable. You probably already know this somewhere in the back of your mind. The income exists, the opportunity exists, and yet month after month, the balance stays roughly the same. Not because you are doing something catastrophically wrong, but because of something far more subtle. Your brain has a financial setting, and it was programmed long before you were old enough to question it. This video is about that setting, where it comes from, how it operates, and most importantly, how it can be changed. Let's start with something that almost nobody talks about. Your brain does not experience money the way it experiences other resources. When you are hungry, your body sends a clear signal. When you are tired, the feedback is immediate and undeniable. But money has no direct physical equivalent. It is abstract. It is symbolic. And because of that, your brain developed a set of shortcuts to interpret it. And those shortcuts were shaped almost entirely by your earliest experiences and your immediate environment. The result is what behavioral economists call a financial baseline. This is the level of balance, spending behavior, and financial complexity that feels normal to you. Not comfortable, necessarily, just normal. And your brain works constantly, often without your awareness, to return to that baseline whenever you deviate from it. This is why getting a raise often does not change your financial situation as dramatically as you expect. The income increases, but within a few months, the baseline adjusts upward too. New normal. Same feeling, different numbers. The raise disappears not into savings, but into an expanded version of what normal looks like. Slightly better coffee, slightly faster delivery, slightly more frequent upgrades. Understanding this mechanism is the first step to breaking it. Here is what is actually happening beneath the surface. Your brain has two primary systems that influence financial decisions. The first is fast, emotional, and immediate. It responds to visual cues, social signals, and short-term reward. It is the part of you that clicks Add to Cart before the analytical part of your brain has time to evaluate whether that purchase fits your larger goals. The second system is slower, deliberate, and future-oriented. It can calculate long-term consequences, delay gratification, and evaluate trade-offs. The problem is that it requires significantly more mental energy to activate. Most financial environments are specifically designed to engage the first system and bypass the second. Limited time offers, one-click purchasing, subscription defaults, and social proof all work by creating a sense of urgency that prevents slow, deliberate thinking. You are not making bad decisions because you lack discipline. You are making fast decisions because the environment around you is engineered to prevent slow ones. The rewiring begins when you start introducing deliberate friction into your own decision-making process, not willpower, because willpower is unreliable and exhausts itself over time. Friction. Structural changes that create a pause between impulse and action. A simple example. Moving your savings to a separate account that requires an extra step to access. The money is still available. You have not restricted yourself in any technical sense. But the additional step creates a moment of reflection that the immediate reward system cannot bypass as easily. That small pause is where better decisions live. But friction alone is not enough. Because here is the part that most financial advice skips entirely. Behavior change is not primarily rational. It is emotional and identity-based. You do not spend impulsively because you have not thought through the math. You spend because spending feels like a certain kind of person, and your brain is deeply committed to maintaining a consistent self-image. To truly rewire your financial behavior, you need to update the identity, not just the habit. This sounds abstract, but the mechanism is actually very specific. Every time you make a decision that aligns with a new financial identity, saving instead of spending, waiting instead of reacting, choosing structure over convenience, you cast a small vote for a different version of yourself. One decision does not change everything, but 10 decisions in the same direction begin to accumulate. 100 decisions create a visible pattern, And once a pattern becomes visible, it reinforces itself because your brain responds to evidence about who you are. This is why reaching a financial threshold like $10,000 can feel psychologically significant even when the number itself has no magical properties. It is not the amount, it is the evidence. It is proof that a different pattern of behavior is possible and sustainable for you specifically. And once that evidence exists, it becomes a reference point that influences every future decision. Let's talk about the specific patterns that keep people stuck below that threshold, because recognizing them is more useful than generic advice about spending less. The first pattern is invisible accumulation of small decisions. Most people can identify their large financial mistakes. The car that was too expensive, the purchase that didn't make sense. But those large decisions rarely explain the full picture. The real drain is usually a collection of small decisions that each feel completely justified in isolation. A subscription here, an upgrade there, a convenience purchase that saves time but costs money. Individually, none of these decisions seem significant. Together, they can consume the entire margin between your income and a growing balance. The second pattern is emotional spending as a regulation strategy. Money has become one of the primary ways that people manage uncomfortable emotional states: stress, boredom, social anxiety, fatigue. Shopping feels productive. Ordering delivery feels like self-care. Upgrading something feels like progress. None of these feelings are wrong, but when they become the automatic response to discomfort, the financial system gets pulled in a direction that has nothing to do with long-term goals. The third pattern is comparison-driven spending. You are not comparing yourself to everyone. You are comparing yourself to a very specific reference group, the people you see daily, follow online, or grew up with. And that comparison creates a constant, low-level pressure to maintain a certain visible standard of consumption. The visible standard almost always costs more than what is necessary for genuine well-being. None of these patterns are character flaws. They are predictable responses to specific environmental and psychological inputs, and that means they can be addressed systematically rather than through self-criticism. The shift that matters most is moving from a reactive financial position to a designed one. Reactive means that your financial behavior is mostly a response to what appears in front of you. Bills arrive and you pay them. Opportunities to spend appear and you evaluate them in the moment. Income comes in and gets absorbed by existing patterns. Designed means that you have created a structure in advance that guides decisions before they need to be made. The simplest version of a designed financial structure is knowing with specificity where money goes before it arrives. Not a perfect budget with every category calculated to the dollar. That level of complexity tends to collapse under real-world conditions. But a clear intention about the first action that happens when income arrives. Before lifestyle, before convenience, before anything else, a portion moves to a growing balance. The amount is less important than the consistency of the action. Over time, this single structural decision does more than any amount of motivation or discipline could achieve, because it operates before the emotional systems have a chance to evaluate it. The money is already moved. The decision was already made. The fast, impulsive brain never got the chance to weigh in. This is the practical translation of rewiring. Not changing how you feel about money. Not achieving some perfect state of financial enlightenment. Just designing the environment so that better decisions happen by default, and worse decisions require more effort. The brain you have right now is not a liability. It is a system that responds predictably to inputs and structure. Change the inputs, build the structure. The brain will follow, because here is the thing that takes a long time to truly internalize. Your financial future is not primarily determined by what you earn, what you know, or even what you want. It is determined by what your automatic behaviors produce when no one is watching and nothing is urgent. And those automatic behaviors can be redesigned. One decision at a time, one pause at a time, one small vote for a different version of yourself, repeated enough times to become the only version that feels real. That is how the rewiring happens. Not dramatically, not all at once, but permanently.